When Rachel broke up with me, she didn't just leave, she made it an event. We were sitting in her car outside her apartment, and I knew something was off. She wasn't making eye contact. She kept tapping her nails on the steering wheel. Then, she said it. "Ethan, you're not ambitious enough. I can't wait around while you figure your life out." That stung, not because she was wrong. I was still figuring things out. I just left a dead-end job in retail management to start over in sales at a mid-sized logistics company. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't impressive yet. But it was a real shot at building something. Still, hearing her say it out loud, like I was holding her back, felt like someone twisting a knife. Then came the line that stuck with me for months. "I need someone who already is somebody, not someone who might be." She didn't say it cruelly. That was the worst part. She said it like it was a fact, like she'd already weighed her options and this was the most efficient move. Rachel always treated life like a ladder. Every relationship, every job, every friend was either a step up or a step sideways. I guess. I was a step sideways. After the breakup, I went quiet for a while. I buried myself in work. I studied the top closers at our company. I listened to sales podcasts during my commute. I stayed late, ran cold call experiments, tracked every follow-up, and slowly, quietly, started becoming good. Not great, not overnight, but good enough that my team leader Greg started taking notice. Greg was an old-school guy, blunt, honest, always wearing the same gray suit and navy tie like it was a uniform. He'd been with the company 20 years and knew every client's dog's name. One day, after I closed a mid-tier client that had ghosted us for months, Greg walked over, nodded once, and said, "You're not bad, Ellis. I like that you don't talk much. You just do." From Greg, that was like a standing ovation. A year after the breakup, something weird happened. Greg invited me to a dinner. Not a team dinner, a private dinner with a few senior execs and a couple of friends of the company. It was at this fancy steakhouse downtown. Everyone wore blazers even though it was 90 degrees outside. I felt wildly out of place until I realized no one expected me to dominate the room. I was just there to observe, absorb, and, if I was lucky, be noticed. Then the CEO arrived. Jackson Riley. I'd seen him once during orientation, but this was different. Up close, the guy had serious presence. Sharp eyes, casual smile, confident but not arrogant. The kind of guy who makes you want to sit up straighter. He shook hands with everyone and then clapped Greg on the back. "Is this the guy you were telling me about?" he asked, nodding toward me. Greg grinned. "This is Ethan Ellis, quiet killer." I laughed nervously, but Riley gave me a firm handshake. "I like the sound of that. Let's talk." We did. For maybe 15 minutes. He asked smart questions. I answered honestly, didn't try to show off. Just told him how I approached my accounts and why I focused more on relationship building than short-term wins. He nodded slowly. "You ever thought about stepping outside the sales floor?" I didn't know what to say. A week later, I got a call. It wasn't a promotion. It was an invitation. Jackson Riley was starting a new division, a boutique consulting arm of the company to handle clients who needed more than basic logistics. They wanted someone young, sharp, and adaptable to help build it. He offered me a partnership track, not just a job. I said yes quietly, without fireworks. I didn't even post it on LinkedIn. But then, 3 months into the new role, we were invited to a corporate mixer hosted by one of our biggest client groups. And that's where I saw her again. Rachel, laughing, wine in hand, standing next to one of the regional managers. The event was a corporate mixer, but it felt more like a wedding reception. Soft jazz, mood lighting, open bar. Everyone was dressed like they were trying to impress someone. Clients, executives, or maybe just their ex. In my case, it turned out to be all three. I didn't spot Rachel at first. I was standing near the back of the venue with Riley, our CEO, sipping an old-fashioned and talking through a logistics pitch he wanted us to deliver next quarter. A few other regional managers floated in and out of the conversation. Then Riley motioned across the room. "Let me introduce you to one of our newest hires on the client side, very sharp, background in account development. She just got brought on at Truvant. That's when I saw her. Rachel. Same confident walk. Same polished smile. Hair a little shorter now, darker maybe, but still unmistakably her. She didn't see me yet. She was laughing at something one of the other guys said, glass of wine in hand, acting completely in her element. My stomach dropped, just for a second, not because I missed her, because I suddenly remembered exactly how small I'd felt the night she left. Riley called her over. She turned, her eyes locked on mine, and I swear, for just a second, her smile faltered. "Rachel," Riley said, placing a hand on my shoulder. "This is Ethan Ellis, one of the partners on the consulting side. He's the guy helping us lock down the Westfield initiative." Rachel's eyes widened. "Ethan Ellis?" She covered it well, but I caught it, that flicker of recognition of confusion. Then she smiled like nothing had happened. "Wow, it's been a while." I nodded. "Yeah, it has." I didn't say anything else. Neither did she. Riley kept talking, introducing other execs, but I saw Rachel drift toward the bar not long after. Alone. Later, as people mingled and the conversations loosened up, she approached me. "Ethan," she said, "can we talk for a second? Privately?" We stepped off to the side near one of the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She took a slow sip of her drink and looked me over like she was still trying to put the pieces together. "I didn't know you worked with Jackson Riley." "I don't work with him," I said calmly. "I'm part of the division he launched." Her brows rose slightly. "So you're, what, a project lead?" "No. I'm on partnership track." I didn't say it arrogantly, just stated it plainly, the way she used to do when she talked about her job titles. There was a pause. Then, she laughed, and a soft, awkward laugh. I didn't expect that. "Last I saw you, you were still trying to get certified in—" "Yeah," I cut in gently. "A lot's changed since then." She nodded, eyes flicking toward the crowd behind me. "I guess I assumed, I don't know, that you'd still be figuring it out." I smiled. "I did. I just stopped asking for permission to do it." She bit her lip. I didn't mean to sound... "It's fine," I said. "You were honest. Brutal, maybe, but honest." I wasn't trying to make her feel bad. And to be fair, she didn't say anything cruel at the time that wasn't true. I was still building myself when we were together. She just didn't believe I would, and that was the difference. Now, she was working under a regional manager whose boss was my client. She hadn't climbed the ladder. She'd jumped to a similar rung somewhere else. And here I was on the executive side, with Riley introducing me to her. I didn't need to rub it in, because she already felt it. Later that evening, I caught her looking my way again. Once, then again when she thought I wasn't watching. But I didn't approach her, not out of bitterness, because I didn't need anything from her anymore. The mixer ended on a high note. Our team had a productive night, made a few promising connections, and I even got a quiet nod from Riley as we were leaving. The kind of nod that said, "You carried yourself well tonight." I wasn't thinking about Rachel as I walked to my car. At least I told myself that. But a few days later, she made sure I wouldn't forget her so easily. It started with a LinkedIn notification. "Rachel W. has viewed your profile." Then another. "Rachel W. sent you a connection request." I didn't accept. Not because I was trying to be petty, but because I knew exactly what this was. People like Rachel never circle back unless they see something they want. Not necessarily you, but maybe your access, your reputation, your momentum. That theory was confirmed when I got a text from an unknown number a few hours later. "Rachel. Hey, hope this isn't weird. Just wanted to say it was good seeing you again. You've really made something of yourself." I stared at the message for a long moment, no emojis, no apology. Just polished admiration. I didn't reply, but that wasn't the end of it. A week later, Riley's team scheduled a follow-up strategy meeting, a joint session between our consulting group and the account teams at Truvant, Rachel's new company. and guess who showed up with their regional team? Rachel. This time, she was all business. Professional tone, neutral expressions, acting like we barely knew each other, like our past was just some footnote no one needed to bring up. But people did notice something was off. During the meeting, every time I spoke, she'd stiffen slightly. Avoid eye contact. At one point, one of her teammates glanced between us and smiled like she was putting the pieces together. I kept my cool. I laid out our roadmap for Westfield, presented a new client retention angle, and backed it up with metrics. Riley nodded his approval twice. Rachel's manager, a guy named Mason, seemed impressed. This is exactly the kind of strategic thinking we've been missing. You're on top of it, Ellis. I smiled. Appreciate that. And then, just because the universe loves irony, Mason said, Rachel, I want you to stay closely aligned with Ethan's team. You could learn a lot. Her face didn't move. But her eyes told a different story. After the meeting, she caught me by the elevator. You're enjoying this, aren't you? I raised an eyebrow. Enjoying what? She scoffed. You know what? Watching me squirm. I shook my head. No, I'm doing my job. That hasn't changed. She crossed her arms, defensive now. So you're not even a little smug? I paused. Rachel, I spent months trying to prove I wasn't a disappointment. To myself, not to you. If you think I'm doing any of this to get back at you, you're giving yourself way too much credit. She blinked. That one hit. I stepped into the elevator. Just before the doors closed, I added, You were right about one thing, though. I did need to figure things out. I just didn't realize how much better I'd do it without someone rushing me to the finish line. Click. Doors closed. It had been about 2 weeks since the elevator conversation. Rachel kept her distance during meetings after that. Polite, professional, and unreadable. I didn't push. I didn't need to. I'd already moved on in every way that mattered. But then something happened I wasn't expecting. It was a Friday evening, just past 7, and I was staying late at the office to finalize a proposal deck for a new client. Most people had cleared out. The floor was quiet. I was pouring myself a stale cup of break room coffee when the elevator dinged. Rachel walked in. No blazer, no office face. Just a simple blouse and jeans. She looked almost unsure. We stood there for a beat. I nodded, went back to stirring my coffee. She finally said, You're not going to ask why I'm here? I shrugged. Didn't think it was my business anymore. She exhaled, nervous. I shouldn't have ended things the way I did. I stayed quiet. I didn't break up with you because I stopped caring. I did it because I thought you were stalling. Stuck. I thought I needed someone who had already arrived. She laughed softly. But turns out I picked a guy who'd already peaked. I sipped my coffee. You don't have to explain. I do, she insisted. Because back then, I thought I was ahead of you. But seeing you now, watching you speak in that meeting, hearing how people talk about you, she stopped herself. I was wrong. And I'm sorry. Those last 3 words? I'd waited a year to hear them. Not because I needed validation, but because they meant I wasn't crazy for believing I could become more than what she saw. I looked at her, finally. Thanks, I said. I mean that. There was a long silence between us. Not tense. Just final. Then she asked, almost hesitantly, Do you ever think about what would have happened if we'd stayed together? I considered it. Honestly, maybe I wouldn't have grown the same way. Maybe I would have kept trying to become who you needed, instead of who I actually am. She looked down at the floor. That's fair. I gave her a small smile. We were just on different timelines, and that's okay. She left a few minutes later. No dramatic goodbye, no second confession, just a nod. A soft, take care. And that was it. These days, I don't think about her much. I'm focused on the business, the partnerships we're building, the version of myself I never would have discovered if I hadn't been counted out. Sometimes you need someone to doubt you, so you'll finally bet on yourself. And sometimes, success is its own kind of closure.